It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Let's start with some Arkansas news, shall we? This has alarmed a lot of people. Over the weekend, this story broke from Andy Davis. And I want to say this is a very well-written piece by Andy Davis. A lot of information here. And when I saw the headline, and I have a pretty good memory of what was said, what was promised, the public spend for why you do X or Y or Z. And when I read this headline, plans to change Medicaid set off provider alarms in Arkansas. Caps, cuts, imperil in-home assisted living care, they say. When I read that headline, this number popped up in my head. And the number is $835 million. Now, why is that number relevant? Well, if you've been following this story, you know that under Republican leadership, they set out to cut $835 million from traditional Medicaid spending in order to pay for Medicaid expansion. That's what they set out to do. Now, they bragged about it. As a matter of fact, they said, we're not going to be cutting services either. There's a lot of waste in Medicaid. And we're going to cut $835 million over 5 years, and it won't affect services. Now, my response was, I don't necessarily believe that, but even if I did, I don't think it's right to take money away from those who are truly needy, who are on Medicaid. I'm not saying that there's somebody on Medicaid that doesn't really deserve to be on it, but for the most part, we have established as a society that Medicaid is for those who truly can't help themselves, okay? And whether or not that's the case, and there's always exceptions, but you get the point. Well, we decided to expand Medicaid. We had 700,000 people on Medicaid. We decided to essentially expand Medicaid 300,000 more to where 1/3 of the people in this state are on Medicaid. 1 million people out of 3 are on Medicaid. That's essentially what we decided to do. The Republicans did it with Governor Beebe, a minority of Republicans, and they've got us in this mess where now we have so many we've got such high in the dollar figure in future obligations that we had to figure out how we're going to pay for it when the federal government ratchets down its 100% to 98 to all the way down to 90 to where we have to pay 10. What are we going to do? Well, the health care reform task farce, which at this point has been proven to be a farce, they came out and said, we're going to cut $835 million so that we can pay for able-to-work adults on Medicaid expansion with no dependents. A good percentage of don't work. That's why they wanted that. It wasn't all of a sudden that they wanted to trim the budget and tighten the belt. That had nothing to do with it. It had everything to do with obligating our state more money in this direction in a growth of government. We got to find out how we're going to pay for this. Oh, let's go to Medicaid. Let's go to those who truly need it. And let's save. Let's, quote, save. But you're not really saving because you're turning around and spending it on another program. And this is the result of that. Throw the headline up there. Here you see Dan Douglas on the, I guess he's pictured here. Interesting. Proposed changes in Medicaid rules will cause assisted living facilities to go out of business and reduce services to elderly and disabled Arkansans at home, service providers say. Now, for those of you pro-Medicaid expansion people out there, I'm really glad they're making this argument because it's the hospitals are going to close argument right back in your face. Oh, hospitals are going to close. Rural hospitals are going to close if we don't expand Medicaid. So please don't try to challenge this. Well, some of these businesses assisted living facilities are going to close. Okay. The changes, which would take effect next month, include a nearly 22% reduction in the rates paid to assisting living facilities and set annual per-person caps on the in-home help provided to participants in the AR Choices program. The changes, according to Andy Davis, are part of the state's efforts to slow the growth of Medicaid spending by enough to save $835 million. There it is. See, I knew it. I knew it was in there. $835 million from the fiscal year that started July 1st, 2017 through 2021. Providers say the moves will result in more elderly and disabled residents ending up in nursing homes where the cost of their care will be higher. That'd be good for the nursing homes. The Home Instead Senior Care franchise serving Washington, Benton, Carroll, and Madison counties last month notified the 48 AR Choices participants it had been serving that it will stop participating in the program because of the changes. A manager said the changes will increase the firm's administrative costs. The Oaks at Mena, an assisted living facility, has already struggled with vacancies caused by a cap on the number of people in the state who can receive help from Medicaid to live in such places. The rate reduction is going to just basically finish it off, she said, according to Lisa Master. State Representative Dan Douglas, who attended a meeting of providers last month at the AARP offices in Little Rock, said he's heard more from Arkansans about the proposed changes than any other issue since he was elected in 2012. Quote, people are concerned, he said. People are worried about their loved ones. And then are we just going to cram this down their throats and not take care of our most vulnerable citizens? That's bothersome. Again, why are we not going to take care of our most vulnerable citizens? Why? Republicans, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. What is it the Democrats say about Republicans? That you want to throw Granny over the cliff? This brand of republicanism from the leadership is kind of verifying what the Democrats always accuse Republicans of, is it not? It's funny that you grew government, which is what the Democrats are huge fans of, right? Both parties are frauds. But unless you want to actually do what the platform says. I mean, literally. This is we have an example here where the Democrats say you want to throw grandma out of the nursing home. Out of the nursing home. And that's exactly what is about to happen. I mean, if they're right. I mean, if they really are right that these reductions. I mean, it's $835 million over 5 years. This cannot be argued. It's $835 million reductions in traditional Medicaid over 5 years to pay for Medicaid expansion, which are people that okay, let's just say, I would say they don't need it. The left's going to say, no, they need it. Okay, they don't need it as much. Can we agree that they're not the most vulnerable? That's why you have two different Medicaids, right? So this is the cost of socialized medicine, really. You know why? Supply and demand. I mean, if you're going to guarantee people have health care or health insurance, you're going to have to ration it. Period. Supply and demand 101. You want everybody to have it? Then you're going to have to limit what some people can get. And being in an assisted living facility, well, you're old. We can't spend that much money on you. You're old. We need to spend it on the young people. That is what's going on here. It is textbook symptoms of full-blown socialized medicine right here in the state of Arkansas. And you can't even argue with it. There is no argument to be made. Andy Davis, I didn't know if the Gazette was going to do this, but hat tip to the Arkansas Democrat Gazette, specifically Andy Davis, because he spelled it out right here. Highlight this paragraph, Joe. Governor Asa Hutchinson in 2015 set the goal of slowing the growth of spending in the traditional Medicaid program by enough to reduce spending by about $167 million a year, or $835 million over 5 years, to help pay for the cost of Medicaid expansion. I'm so glad that he didn't leave this part out. This is, in a nutshell, period, the biggest bombshell in the entire story. Because I remember him going to the task force on health care. Remember when we had a task force on health? Now we have a task force on taxes, but anyway, that's neither here. We are a government of task forces, by the task force, of the task force, whatever. So he went to the task force and he said, I propose we save $835 million for a traditional Medicaid to pay for the Medicaid expansion. Man, we played it on loop over and over and over again. I don't have it at my fingertips right now, but I'm saying it's out there. I'm glad Andy Davis remembered it. I'm glad there are other people out there that actually remember this was the goal. This is the plan coming to fruition. And it's going to result in these assisted living facilities having less money, and, they're dependent on Medicaid. They're dependent on these elderly people to use their facilities. But if it's not financially viable for them, guess what? You're going to have to go somewhere else. So, it's a big deal. And what we are seeing here is the bills come and due. That's all. That's the free ride is over. Any economic argument, meaning for the state, any financial benefit that the state was receiving by getting this $2 billion scot-free a year, it's now over. The other side, maybe they just should have been a little bit more honest with us. Instead of talking about, the private option and, trying to spin it, maybe they just should have said, hey, listen, it's all this federal money and we got to have it. And so that's really why they did it. They did it for the money. It's all about the money, right? Well, that's now gone. The money's gone. The money's been spent. And we got to pay 10% a year now of $2 billion. That's why you want to raise internet taxes. That's why you want to raise gas taxes. That's why you want to pay. That's why you want to extend a current tax by passing another one that's due to sunset. It's because we don't have any money, folks. I mean, that's just the bottom line. We have no money. We have no money. And here is a result of big government. I mean, that's what this is. We overextend it. I mean, it's big government every way around. And it really, we're here because of irresponsible. We're here because irresponsible people refused to be honest and just say what was coming down the pike. We don't have politicians in leadership that looked at this problem like a businessman would look at the problem. As a businessman, if it was all about dollars and cents, you can understand why they took the money. The federal government was paying 100% of it. And now the federal government is going away. They're only going to pay 90%, and that 10% is a huge chunk of money. Any businessman would say, oh, all right, we're going to end the program now. Any businessman would say it. They'd say, oh, well, that was good while it lasted. We're going to end the program now. They refuse. They refuse to look at the numbers on the Excel spreadsheet and admit that it was all about the money. It had nothing to do with actually caring for people. They like to claim that it did, but I promise you it didn't, because all the Republicans that went along with this campaigned and said they wouldn't never do this. But all that money is what convinced them. Again, talk about stereotypical accusations against Republicans. It's funny when you don't have pro-market Republicans and instead you just have big business Republicans, you get results like this.